not the Reverend Leslie Etheridge. But what I am going to do is take this moment, and it's a very honorable moment, to introduce her to you. She is our regional conference minister. I have known her for about a good 3-4 years now, at least. She has been with me from the beginning of my MID process to right now, and prayerfully will be there at the end of it as well. She is one of the kindest people I've ever met. She is one of the most consistent people I've ever met. And two things I know for sure about her: she loves God and she loves God's people. So please open your ears and hear what the Spirit will say.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is so good to be with you today. I love coming here. As you may notice, I have a change of look since the last time I was here. I just have decided I'm going to be my authentic self. If you preach authenticity, you ought to be authentic, right? So, there we go. I bring you greetings from the Florida Conference and our conference minister, John Vertigan, who is preaching in Miami this morning. So we're all out doing something. And in case you don't know, the conference in the UCC, a lot of times people will say, well, that's my boss, or this is the overseer. This is the UCC. Y'all are the boss. And I mean that literally. So we exist as a conference to equip, to encourage, to empower you all, the local church. So thank you for your support to us so that we can be a resource to you. It all comes back to you. So thank you very much for your support. And I say that everywhere I go. Happy Father's Day to all of you, whether you are a parent or not. We were all once children, and we all had parental figures, traditional or non-traditional, biological or non-biological. We had those parental figures in our lives. And here's to all of them, whoever and wherever they are, and to the Father and Mother God who unites us all. I recently heard one of the cutest parent stories that I've heard in a long time, so I want to share it with you. You know, if you've ever tried to get a little one in the routine of the bedtime routine, you got to drink the water, you got to brush the teeth, you got to tell the story, you got to have the bath, you got to go through all the questions just like you didn't ask them the night before. It's a routine, and sometimes it's a laborious routine. So this young dad had gotten his little one into bed upstairs one night, and he had gone down, collapsed on the couch after the routine, a hard day of work, etc. And all of a sudden he hears, "Dad, can I have a glass of milk?" And Dad says, "No, son, it's bedtime now. Go to sleep." Being the dad that he was, he thought that would handle it. But in a few minutes, he heard, "Dad, can I have a glass of milk?" "No, son, I told you this is bedtime. Go to sleep." Surely he'd gotten it that time. But no. "Dad, I really need a glass of milk." "Need it." "No, you don't, son. And if you don't, be quiet and go to sleep. I'll just have to come up there and pop you." He thinks, oh, I've really done it now. I don't usually use that language. But, alas, one more time. "Dad, when you come up here to pop me, will you bring me a glass of milk?" You have to smile at them even when they're frustrating you to no end. And sometimes I think that's how God must feel with us. You just got to smile at those people. Aren't we glad we serve a forgiving and grace-filled God? So our text for today, Psalm 23, is a very familiar one to most of you. It is full of beautiful imagery. So I'm going to say something to you that you won't hear most preachers say before they deliver a sermon. If you want to close your eyes and put yourself in the middle of that beautiful imagery, you go right ahead. You go wherever you need to go. No judgment here. Now, if you start snoring, that may be something different, but we'll cover that, okay? So as a part of the curriculum of Advent Episcopal Kindergarten, when I was 5 years old, Psalm 23 was the very first thing I learned. I memorized it. I thought it was the longest piece of poetry, whatever it was, that I called it writing at the time. But actually it is only 6 sentences. And I wasn't real sure why they were having me do this, put me through this torture. 5 years old, having to learn this whole big, long, huge piece of writing. And, but you know, the older I got, the more I thought, oh, somebody who planned the curriculum knew what they were doing, because that psalm has brought much comfort to me and allowed me to provide comfort to others along the way. So kudos to Advent Episcopal Kindergarten. It begins with the assurance that the Lord is my shepherd. Immediately, right there, we're in the present tense. The Lord is my shepherd. And the word my makes it personal. Present and personal. And isn't that how God wants us to be in relationship? And isn't that how we need to be in relationship with God? James Mays notes that Psalm 23 is very unique because no other psalm says, my shepherd. All the other psalms referred, when they refer to the shepherd as the metaphor for God, they refer to relationship in community. It always says, our shepherd, not my shepherd. So it's a very unique psalm. And what's really going on in Psalm 23 is the location and summation of God's relationship to God's people in the living out of one individual, therefore making it present and personal. The next line, I shall not want. Oh, that's a hard one, isn't it? In our consumeristic society, I shall not want. That's a hard one. But it's not about gathering stuff or having too much stuff. Truly, if you have a trusted friend, you have a treasure. I'm betting that real trusted friends of yours you could count on one hand, maybe on just a couple of fingers or so. It's sort of countercultural and counterintuitive built into us not to trust. I mean, just think of the hype that we hear all the time about how much more attractive we could be if we just did this, or how much more money we could have if we just bought into this. We're raised with that mentality of kind of insecurity and not trusting, not even trusting ourselves, maybe not even trusting God. So if you have a friend that you can trust, if you have a God that you can trust, you have a treasure. We've gone a long way in just trusting. I shall not want is a statement of trust in God. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, restores my soul. Restores my soul. That imagery of lying down in green pastures, in lush green pastures, or walking by the water. feeling God's peace wash over you and comfort you, permeate you. There's nothing like it. Last week, I video conferenced with my community of practice, which is made up of other people in the same position I am in other conferences nationwide. And every time we get together, we open with worship. And at the end of last week's worship, the facilitator said, "What restores your soul?" Unfortunately, I had to think about it for a minute. It should have come to me automatically, and I'm working on that. But 4 out of the 5 people on the call said something having to do with water. There's just something about water that is soothing and flowing. 4 out of the 5 of us said something about the beach as well. The beach and the ocean, it's all combined. I constantly thank God that I live where I do and get to serve where I serve. So wherever it is, or however that happens for you to have your soul restored, I hope you recognize it when it's needed. Truth be told, we are the negligent ones about that. God sits at the ready 24/7 to restore our souls. Sometimes we don't allow God to do that. Something for all of us to work on. Now, leading us on the right paths. You know, we're all adults. We've all been down many paths in our adult lives. We don't always get the spotlights from God that say, this is the one to go through. This is the one to go down. This is the path to travel. Oftentimes it's kind of hit and miss. We've all heard the adage that God works in mysterious ways. Well, those good, steady, certain paths aren't always readily available to us, and they're not always clearly visible, as I said. That's because God is not a helicopter parent. You know, those parents that hover over their children constantly. My daughter and my son are both teachers, and they can tell you a lot about those helicopter parents. And, yeah, and how they can drive them stark raving mad sometimes. But you know, at some point, you have to let those children be a little bit independent. That's how they learn, even though that's very hard for us as parents. But you know, God, in His omnipotence, knew that that was going to be difficult. So right from the beginning, He gave us free will. I wonder how many times He's regretted that decision. Because we can sure mess it up, can't we? Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Isn't that a beautiful image? My cup overflows with Spirit. The psalmist assures us that we are restored, we are protected, we are safe with our loving, trusted parent. We are also assured that even if we dine with our enemies, we are safe. You know, there's much to be said for safety. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety is second only to breathing. You are alive, and then your next need is safety. To be near God is to be safe, present and personal. Intimacy flows through the 23rd Psalm if we will but yield ourselves to the nuances of that message. It is powerfully beautiful, touching and revealing, and reveals God's unbelievably gentle and tender nature. And if you recall, the Old Testament doesn't always reveal God's tender and gentle nature. So, thanks for the psalm, David. It is the poetry of a parent's love. That's why it's appropriate for today. And then comes the slam dunk. All that being said, at the end, it gets a little futuristic on us. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What a promise. What a promise. What an assurance. Now, I don't know what that dwelling house looks like. None of us do. But you know what? I don't have to know. That's not important to me. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the version that we read, which I believe was probably the New Revised Standard Version, it says, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. Present. I think I like that better. I don't have to know what eternal looks like. I have now, and God is present now, and God is good. I want you to think about what good thing or things, God has done in your life recently. We always seem to concentrate on the not so good things. For just a moment, I want you to concentrate on the good things. And could you allow God to do more? And the answer to that is yes. I think maybe if you're not Jesus, the answer to that is yes. I can allow God to do more. Up to you. To be more present and more personal. Reading the 23rd Psalm can strengthen you and comfort you, and it can bring you into a closer, more intimate relationship with God. Whenever you are down and you really don't have a clue as to what you need to do, pull that psalm out. It's only 6 sentences, you might even want to memorize it. When I worked as a chaplain in Chattanooga, Tennessee, my beeper went off one night. Never a good sign. I was the only chaplain in an 800-bed level 1 trauma center, and I had been on the job 2 days. I couldn't even, hospitals are mazes. I couldn't even get to one department or one unit or the other without saying, can you tell me where I am and where I need to be going? God bless those patients. But I was it. And that's even kind of a scary thought to me now, thinking that I was it. 800-bed hospital, always full, always full. So this man, admitted earlier, was totally alone in one of the units and had asked the nurse if he could see a chaplain. That's when I got the call. I didn't know a whole lot about what was going on, what the injury or the illness was. I just knew that he was there. He had asked for a chaplain. And by the way, the nurse said, he wants you to baptize him. Okay. You can relate. 2 days on the job, thank you. Fresh out of seminary, 2 days on the job. So I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I did know a good bit about me. I wasn't ordained. I'd never baptized anybody before. Not sure I knew the words. Didn't know if we had a book with the words in it. I was definitely out of my comfort zone. Definitely out of my comfort zone. And doubtful of my competence to be able to pull this off to where he at least thought he was baptized. It's all relative. As long as he thinks he's baptized, he's good, right? But I had no collar, I had no stole, I needed water. I needed a receptacle for water. I needed the words. Where was that book with the words in it? Well, God is so good. God is just so good. I found the little shell that we often put water in when we're going to baptize someone, even though I had never done it. It held about 3 drops, and I prayed that he didn't believe in total immersion. We were going to have a hard time if that's what he was asking for. I found the book with the words in it, actually a book of worship, all the words I needed. I went to his room with all the necessary stuff, trying to look official. I probably had on, well, they made us dress nice, so at least I maybe dressed nice. But when all of them went home, we put on our flat shoes and pants. And, Anyway, I digress. I talked with this sweet man. He didn't look like he was dying or anything, so I said, might you want to wait till tomorrow? Till the real minister gets here? He said no, he wasn't scared. He wanted to be baptized, and he felt like this was the time. He knew Jesus, but he had never been baptized. He felt strongly that tonight was the night. So I tried to juggle my Bible, the water, put the water in the shell, open the book, turn to the right page, all of this going on. It kind of sounds like Keystone Cops chaplain style. It was. And I finally quit juggling everything. I put it all down on the bed. Tried to quit trying to look official. It was what it was. That's all he had. That's all he was getting tonight. And I remembered someone telling me, wherever you go, whatever you do in ministry, you can change one pronoun of Psalm 23 and make a difference in somebody's life. And I thought, now may be the time to pull that out of the hat. So I started to look for it in the book and realized I have known this psalm since I was 5 years old. Thank you, Advent Episcopal Kindergarten. I held his hands and I said these words to him. And on this day, I offer these words to you as a blessing and a message that God has for you today by simply changing one pronoun in Psalm 23. The Lord is your shepherd. You shall not want. God makes you lie down in green pastures and leads you beside still waters. God restores your soul. God leads you in right paths for God's name's sake. Even though you walk through the darkest valley, you shall fear no evil. For God is with you. God's rod and staff, they comfort you. God prepares a table before you in the presence of your enemies and anoints your head with oil. Your cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life, and you shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I encourage you this day and all the days after to let God be your holy parent. There is a vulnerable, childlike side to all of us. We all yearn to be loved, to be accepted, to be spiritually fed, to be held close and kept safe. Your shepherd is waiting.